Good morning. This is the Blaine's World podcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. You can also listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And you can get more information and listen to previous shows on our website, www.blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on people and organizations doing cool stuff in Western North Carolina and throughout the nation. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce my first guest, and my only guest today, and he is Tom Godleski. And Tom, welcome aboard. And you can say hello to all your fans and friends. Give them a wave.
Hey, y'all.
Okay, that's Tom Godleski. And Tom is going to be talking about kind of a really cool program he's going to be doing at Asheville Community Theatre. Before we talk about the program, Tom, let me just get a little background on you. And what I always ask a guest the first time is, as a kid, you grew up where?
I grew up in Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay, you grew up in Asheville, North Carolina, and stayed here ever since?
I was born here a long time back in the ancient days, and I live actually. My wife and I live on the property that I grew up on. Like my grandfather bought this property in 1944, so I've only lived away from this property 10 months my whole life.
Okay. So you're one of the few people actually born and raised and stayed in Asheville the whole time. So that's kind of cool. And Tom, when you were a kid then growing up in Asheville, did you always know you wanted to be a musician?
Um, I remember as a little boy I would sing, and I remember singing, when I was a kid, and I sang in some school musicals and some programs at school. But I didn't really think much about being a musician until later on in life. Um, I got a late start compared to my bandmates. I didn't start trying to play an instrument till I was 29.
Oh, really? Wow. So what did
Yeah.
you do before you were 29? What did you do?
Well, I didn't really assert myself as far as singing or musically. I just I would sing and sing along with the radio, and then I might do like a karaoke or something every now and again. But I tell you, Blaine, I had a dear neighbor, uh, Rita Lunsford, who was 45 years old, and she died of cancer, and she was like really really full of life, you know. And at her wake, after the funeral, we came back to her house, and there was a friend of the family's there. A guy had a guitar, and he was a really good guitar player, and he started playing some songs. And I said, "Hey, do you know such and such?" And he's like, "What keys it in?" And I said, "I don't know." And so he and we did some stuff there at my neighbor's wake, and it just kind of I don't know, it just kind of stirred me along, because I was like, I was 29, and I thought, gosh, my friend was only 45, when she passed. So that kind of got me a little bit of a jump start. So that's when I got up with a high school friend of mine that I graduated with, named James Hembry, who's a really really good musician, and he let me borrow a bass. He played guitar. Our other friend played banjo. I said, "Well, we need a bass player," so he let me borrow a bass, and he gave me lessons. He taught me. He gave me some lessons, and so that's how I kind of got started. And I started playing bluegrass, and then I kind of went off and did with a country rock group, blues country rock group, and was the lead singer for them. And then it all kind of came back around full circle, and I came back to bluegrass, and that's been 25 years ago,
You
whatever.
remember your first performance,
The first paying gig that I
right?
had, actually, with the country rock band, and we played at a lake in Newport, Tennessee, at Douglas Lake in Newport, Tennessee, on the 4th of July. And we played, uh, this is crazy. We played the song Achy Breaky Heart
Sure.
like 5 times during the gig, because that was at that time it was a big hit, and people just kept requesting it. So,
Now,
you know,
um,
right now we kind of, I'm not sure about all musicians, but most are like, they have enough pride to where they don't want to repeat songs in a set. If you repeat a song, that means you don't have a good repertoire. So if somebody says, "Let's play this one," well, we've already played that one. We're not going to play that one at the same gig. But at that gig, we played Achy Breaky Heart like 5 times.
Well, I'm looking behind you, Tom. I don't see though a framed check. I don't see the check behind you. You know, you kept it the very first time you ever got paid. You spent that
No,
money.
no, I think we got paid $50 a man. I think is what it was, and
Okay.
we were, and of course I wasn't a spring chicken. I wasn't, like really really young, but we thought, man, we acted like we were like, we acted like we were at Carnegie Hall. We thought we were really, we were at a lake for a bunch of people, and it was a great time. It was the 4th of July. People were celebrating, and we threw down. We had a great time.
Well, can I ask you? So now every time I see you, are we going to hear that same song? Do you play that anymore? Icky Breaky.
Absolutely not.
So
You
I
know
was
this
hoping.
song?
Yeah.
No, no. It's like I would probably want to hurt myself if I heard it again. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's great. So Tom, trace it then. So you got in the business 29, it's certainly late, and that you took some lessons. Did you take more lessons after that, or how do you become proficient as a musician?
I'm not a professional musician, but um I took guitar lessons for a while, and then it just like I said, my friend, and he's like, we need a bass player, so I just naturally gravitated back towards the bass, and I borrowed my friend's electric bass, and then I bought an electric bass, and then my wife got me she bought me a an upright bass for Christmas one year, and it's kind of cool that bass that first upright bass that I owned is made out of aluminum. It's a friend of ours used to say, "Oh, what kind of wood is that?" He'd say, "It's silver maple," because I took the paint off of it. It's silver. So that's and for bluegrass, there are some groups that use an electric bass, but people in bluegrass are pretty traditionalists, and I am too as well. But um, people kind of frown on electric basses. Some people do in bluegrass, and I love the sound of an upright bass. So
Do you still have that first bass? Do you still have it?
the first bass,
Yeah.
I sure do.
Now, let me ask you, how many instruments do you have overall?
Um, I have about one. So I got three guitars, a banjo, two basses, a dulcimer, a mandolin. And that's really not much. I mean, I know like some of my bandmates have many, many instruments. Um, I recently, or in the past year or so, a friend of mine offered to sell me his father's upright bass, and he was going to give me a deal on it. And I was just like, upright basses take up a lot of room in the house.
Right.
And I was like, oh man, and I really wanted that bass because his father had passed away, and I knew his father, and I had to think about it, and then finally I just had to tell him I really would love to have that bass, but you can only play one at a time.
Right.
So, and the bass that I have, the upright bass that I have, I love that. I love my instrument. I love that bass. I would be if I got another bass to play, I would feel like I was cheating on my other bass.
Now, these instruments you have, like the dulcimer, were those all self-taught, or how did you pick up learning
No, I
the?
actually, honestly, I don't even play the dulcimer. I just bought this because it's a cool instrument, and I've messed with it a little bit, but it mainly is a wall hanger. Um, and then yeah, it's mainly it's like a wall decoration now.
So,
There's a string on it, and I haven't had it repaired.
so now you started late, and then you were started performing all over the area. Um, you also started, correct me if I'm wrong, you also started songwriting. Is that correct?
Right.
You're a songwriter?
I write well. This CD we got coming up, I wrote maybe 4 or 5 of the songs on it. It's got 14 songs on it. But what was I don't know. Like as you move through life and things kind of come around. When I first started, I didn't even attempt to write anything. I was just like was learning other people's music, and I just didn't even attempt to write anything. And then I don't know, it just kind of evolved into um, just evolved into me started writing songs. Now, I I'm I love listening to interviews of people, songwriters and famous songwriters. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he lived in Nashville. And I think I didn't catch his name anyway, but he was talking about how he had written thousands and thousands of songs. And I'm not a prolific songwriter like that. Um, at this point in my life, I just turned 62. So at this point in my life, my writing is I have to write things that are meaningful. Like I don't want to, and I'm not knocking anyone else, but I don't want to write a song about a breakup. I want to write, I love writing stories. I love writing songs that are true stories. So at this point, for me personally, I'm very selective about what I write about, um, just because I don't want to waste the time on some breakup song.
How many songs have you written about?
Goodness, I'd say 50 maybe, 40
Okay,
or 50, but um,
so you're getting there.
and one of my friends, one of the guys asked me, "What's your favorite song you've written?" And I was like, and the classic answer to that, what John Mellencamp said is, "Oh, I haven't written it yet."
Oh, I love it.
You know,
Yeah.
I have, now I have some songs that I've written that are very meaningful. Um, if you can write a song that means something to someone else, it's and I'll give you an example. And I don't mean to, I don't want to ever sound like it's like braggy or anything like that, but it's just a fact. Right across from where I'm sitting here, right across the hill, there's an Iraqi war veteran buried there, a boy named Kenny Hess. He was killed in Iraq in 2006, and I am friends with his father. And his family put a flag over there with a flagpole, and I just see that flag over there, and I'm reminded of him laying over there. This is my friend's son. So I called his dad, and his name Terry Hess. I called Terry up one time, and I'll never forget. My wife and I were in Georgia camping. I had my guitar with me. I called Kenny's dad, Terry Hess, and I said, and he's like, "Hey man, how you doing?" He was, and chit chat, for a few seconds, and then I said, "Terry, I want to write a song about your son." And he went silent, like just like he didn't say anything for a few seconds, and then he said, "Please, please write a song about my son." I said, "Okay, give me some information." So I asked him some things about his son, and I was able to put some of the words that Terry even said into the song. So what I'm getting at there is, that's what I mean by writing something that's meaningful. If I can write something that means something, or that has a lesson in it, or it tells a story, that's what I mostly like to write about.
You write every day? When
Do
you
I
write,
what?
do you write songs every day? Do you
I
sit
don't
down?
write every day, but I carry a pen and a Sharpie with me at all times. And of course, I've got my phone. I could be modern, and do it on my phone. But I'm constantly. I mean, that's just the way you are. It's the way it is. You're always trying to come up with ideas, and um, or if you hear someone say something, if you hear someone say, something that might be meaningful, um, then you write it down or you remember it. And I keep a pad and a pen beside my bed, because uh, sometimes you'll think of something and wake up in the middle of the night and think of something, and then or you might dream something. And this is so funny. One time I remember a few years ago, I got my pen and pad beside the bed, and I dreamed something, and then I rolled over. I was half asleep, and I just reached over and I got the pad and I wrote, and I just wrote the words that rhymed together, because and when I woke up in the morning, I looked at the pad and it said something like irresponsible and terrible, and I didn't have any idea why I wrote that down. I was half asleep, but yeah, I don't write every day, but I'm constantly um, I'm constantly on the lookout for ideas, um, and I'll just tell you this new CD we got coming out is called Good Measure, and good measure is a term. Uh, it's to me, it's kind of cool because this is my opinion. In every culture in the world, there is good measure. It's just named something else. So, in other words, karma, to me, karma is the same thing as good measure.
Sure.
What you give, you get back. The good measure you use is what you're going to. And so, um, I'm, I have a little small lawn mowing landscape business, and we work at a trailer park out in Arden. We mow, and I pick up trash there, and keep the place clean. And I was there a couple weeks ago working, and this little boy comes out, and he starts yelling, "Sir, sir!" And I was like, so I cut the weed eater off, and the little boy who's like 10 years old says, "Would you like something cold to drink?" And I was like, "No, no, I got a cooler in the truck. We're fine. I'm fine." And then I realized that little boy
Right.
really wanted to give me and my friend a drink. So then it became a thing where I don't want to deny him
Sure.
giving us something because he wanted to be nice and give us something. That's good measure. That's karma. That's good stuff. And so I said, "You know what? Yes." And he said, "We've got Coke, Sprite, whatever."
Very nice.
"Son, what about your helper?" I said, "Bring us both a Sprite." And that little boy went and got us both a Sprite. And so I'm hoping, and this hasn't come about yet, but I have a friend who does videos, and we're hoping to make a music video of the song Good Measure. And I was just there yesterday working, and I went to the door, this little boy's door, and knocked on the door, and his mother came to the door, and I'm going to put him in the video.
I love it.
It's on my big plans. I'm always got something going. My plan is to put that little boy in the video, and he goes, "So what do I have to do?" I said, "All you have to do is walk up to us and give us a cold drink."
Yeah, I'm getting a chill hearing that story, but I love it. It reminds me,
Yeah.
Tom, remember years ago the Joe Green commercial for the Pittsburgh?
Yes,
This is it's updated 30, 40 years later, but this is
right.
that song. You have two guys mowing lawn, and this little kid comes up to you. I love it. Great video. So great idea.
So what I thought is when he started yelling, he was trying, he was yelling because I had a weed eater in my hand. And then when he yelled, "Sir," I looked around and I thought, "Oh man, his parents have sent him over here because they need their yard mowed," and I didn't want to do it. I want to go home. That's what I figured. He said, I figured his parents had sent him to me, and so I was like, "Yeah, buddy, what is it?" And then he brought me a drink, and I was talking to one of the neighbors standing there, and this little boy walked up and handed me the drink, and the neighbor, the man I was talking to, he got real excited, and he pointed and he kind of yelled, and he said, "That's what it's all about." And he means being nice to one
Yeah.
another. And he and I had a conversation, and I said, "You know what? You and I may or may not agree on things in the world, politically, whatever, but I'm like, that doesn't mean I have to hate you, or you know what I mean?"
Right.
And
But
that's exactly right. And he goes, "That little boy bringing you that drink that's what it's all about."
I can't wait to see the video because I just see it. It's going to be great. When you write a song, Tom, do you ever revisit it or change it at all?
Uh, that's hilarious. It's funny, kind of, that you said that because the song "Good Measure" really means a lot to me.
Sure.
And even in the studio, I changed the lyrics especially on the second verse. I changed the lyrics 3 or 4 times, and then the last time I went and recorded, I went in with an idea in my head for the lyrics for the second verse, and my older brother Ted, who's a really good man and he's the fire chief out at Leicester Fire Department. He started out as a volunteer like 25, 30 years ago. Now he's the chief. He had texted me a bunch of lyrics, that stuff that he come up with for the song. So then I remembered that and I looked on my text messages on my phone, and I found a couple lines that he had written, And but I do change them. And but here's like if I have a song, like if any songs on our new CD, the way they're recorded, if there's something I don't like about it, I can't help it. It's already done, and I can't go back and and fix it. But yeah, sometimes we do. One time we recorded years ago, and we got in the studio, and uh, one of the words that I was saying was a man's name, and the word didn't sing well because our recording engineer is a guy named Eddie Swan. He's been doing this for 50 years. He says vowels sing. Like an E is a whole lot better than trying to sing, an F, a word. So he says vowels sing. So right in the middle of the studio, I had this song recorded. I had it written. We had it all planned out. And when we recorded the song, I had to change the guy's name because the name I had didn't sing good. It didn't sound good when we recorded it. So you just, when you go in the studio, we always go in thinking, oh man, we're going to go in there today and we're going to record 5 songs and we're going to get this done. But if you do it right, you have to take your time and I'm always very ambitious when we go to this for our studio sessions, but it seems like we don't always get as much done as we want to, you know.
The question I was wondering too, like, do you remember the very first song you ever recorded? What was the name of that? Or one of
If
the
I'm
first
not,
ones?
I'm pretty sure the first song I ever recorded was called "On the Run," and it's a murder ballad. And again, I might not write that today, but I mean, I have some murder ballads, and I have some songs about killing. But "On the Run" was this is so funny when we recorded it back in '02, and then someone from the Mountain Express got a hold of the CD and listened to it, and they called it "High Lonesome Pop." It's, so, in bluegrass you want to have the high lonesome sound. Well, they called our CD "High Lonesome Pop," but the song "On the Run," and it's about a guy who catches his wife with another man, and he kills them both, and then he's on the run. Um, he's got and it would be set back in like the old West days, because and that's another cool thing. It's not a miracle about writing. Your lyrics, the lyrics tells the setting and everything. You don't have to tell your listeners. They're smart enough to
Right.
know that. So in the second verse of the song, I say, my chestnut mare and a Colt 45 are my only companions. Help me stay alive. So that right there immediately tells you that this song is from 150 years ago or whatever. This story is from 150 years ago. But that's the first song probably not the first song that I wrote, but I think it's the first song that we recorded and actually put down.
The question I wanted to ask you, so that song is really cool. You remember the words as you're talking here. If you revisited that, or you want to play that in a concert tomorrow or in the future, would you ever change the words around?
No, not
Okay,
on that one.
cool.
We just played a gig last Saturday night. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, coming Saturday, at a place out near Robbinsville called Stokoe Valley Center, and it's a really really cool gig. It's an old school that was built in the 20s, and it has the old wooden seat auditorium, the old wooden floor stage, and there was a man there. His name was Roy Clark, and he lived in the community in the summertime there, and he was a really sweet, nice, little unassuming, quiet man, very humble. And one time, and Mr. Clark passed away a few years ago, but it was kind of funny. He came up to me at a gig out there one time and said, "Can you play On the Run?" Which to me was kind of funny that this little quiet, unassuming man wanted to hear a murder ballad. So we play that song every time we play Stokoe, even though Mr. Clark's not around anymore. We always play the song for him and dedicate it to him. So that would be one. Now, sometimes I'll get silly and modernize a song just to be silly. As you read this letter that I write tonight, I might say, as you read this email that I write to you, you know,
Right.
like, I usually don't go back and change any of the lyrics of my songs, you know.
Talk a little bit about next, how in terms of as an individual performer, you then now put together a group and you now perform as a group. Talk about that, the process.
It's it's a great thing. I mean, if you know, bands change, people evolve. You know, like my friend David Hyatt, who he and I were one of the 4 original members of Buncombe Turnpike. David, we'd made a couple CDs and we were getting some recognition. And then David had he had 2 daughters, and he's like, guys, I got to take a break. And he said, I can't. We weren't, we weren't on the road. We weren't gone every weekend. But it just takes up a lot of time. So David left the group for a while. And then once he got his daughters raised, both his daughters are very successful and have good jobs, and they're both married. And so about 6 or 7 years ago, we got back together. So, but you know, it is a process, and everybody has to kind of be on the same page. I'm proud to say this band's been together for easily 20 years. If I figured it out, it'd probably be a little bit longer than 20 years, probably 23 years. And I've had different band members over the years. I've kept the ship sailing, so to speak. But this particular group, this configuration of the group, has been together now for 6 or 7 years.
And like I said, that's amazing for a group, and especially most of the same people to stay together.
It is. And this is kind of, we're going to be doing a gig later on in the fall up in Black Mountain. And the lady from this venue, she sent me an email yesterday, and she showed me the press release and everything from last year. And she says, has anything changed? And I was like, I'm really proud to say, no, everybody's still in the band. It's still going to be the same guys. And I feel like over the years, we've had some really good band members and some really good players. And we do now. But you know, when you play together that long, things you get tighter, and you know what each other's going to do. And so, yeah, it's I've enjoyed all the members of the bands that we've had over the years, but this configuration is probably my favorite.
How often do you practice?
Say it again.
How often do you practice, get together?
Practice.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that? Practice. We do not practice a great deal. I'll just be straight up with you. We don't practice a great deal. Now, we did rehearse a lot for the CD, and of course, recording in the wintertime, you know, that's kind of a no-brainer. Things are slower in the wintertime. We don't have as many gigs. So we did, I will say I was very proud of us because we did practice a lot during the winter to learn, you know, you write a song and then you got to work on it. So we did practice. And last weekend when we played at Socoa, one of our guys couldn't make it. It's funny, his niece was his niece was getting married, and 2 of his daughters were in the wedding. This is Corey. Corey told his wife, said, I'm not going to the wedding. And she goes, you got to go to the wedding. Your niece and your daughters are in the weddings. And he was like, yeah, I know. He was just kidding. So, and this is such a small world. My daughter-in-law's brother is a really, really good musician here in Asheville named Jason Krekel. And I called Jason and asked him if he wanted to gig with us. So then we did rehearse with him because he wanted to bone up on some of the songs and get caught up on our songs. But we really don't rehearse a whole lot. A lot of times if we want to work on a new song or something, we'll get to the gig early. You know, we'll get there an hour or 2 early and work on some stuff. We did that recently back in May. We played a wedding over in Tennessee, in Johnson City. And these folks, they heard one of my songs from years ago that we never play. We haven't played it in years. And it's a song, and it's a love song. It's called Forever It Will Be. And it's based on my 2 older brothers, both took their girlfriends up on a mountain and at the same spot at different times, but at the same spot, and they both proposed. And I just thought, what a great, because like you could from where they were, they could see down through the valley, and so it's we could see forever. How you can, the old expression like, oh, man, you could see forever.
Right.
Well, the gist of the song is they could see forever, like through the mountains, but they can see themselves being together forever. So that was the gist of the song. It's a sweet song. It's a love song. And so this couple wanted to hear the song, and we hadn't played it in years. So we just left early and got to the gig, and we learned the song. And then what was really sweet, and that's what I'm talking about, doing something meaningful. Meaningful. When we got through the wedding, that couple came up and they said, "That is going to be our song now forever and ever."
I love it.
Like, wow, that's pretty. So actually, we added it back to our repertoire. It's back in our set list now.
Great story. Tom, talk about also the very first time, not very first time, the most recent time I saw you perform, and that was at Magnetic Theater. That was kind of a cool thing you did, where you did explain that we did the music for that show.
Well, that was the show called The Sparrow and the Whippoorwill. That was my play, that world premiered in September of 2021 at the Magnetic Theater. And what is kind of cool about having a song list or a list of songs, you can go back and look at your song list and say, wow, how can I plug this song into the show? So one of the songs I did is a song called Uncle Clarence, who's based on a real man who was a World War II veteran. Well, the main character in the play was a World War II veteran. So I made the connection to that, by that way. So in other words, the band came in to visit this main character.
I remember.
And they say, we want to play you a song about a fellow World War II veteran. So it's really cool to take I can just take a song and just plug it into the play, and then write a little story or a little mini story around the song, and make it make sense, make it pertinent. For instance, one of the songs we have that we've recorded on our first CD is a really beautiful ballad, and it's called The Last Time. And it's about a Confederate soldier who goes off to war. And it is a beautiful song. So I've currently been working on a new play, and I've always loved that song called The Last Time. In this play, I won't get way into it, but it involves a guy working in a cemetery, and there are ghosts that live in the cemetery. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have a Confederate soldier that's a ghost, and he's going to sing this song during the play. So I was able, even though I didn't write that song, I'm not sure who wrote it. I think it's an old song, but I love that song. I would love to put it in the play. So then I just wrote in a character who's a ghost, but he's a Confederate soldier, and he's going to sing the song during the play.
Yeah, the play I saw. The play I saw. I'm sorry, that was the first play you had ever written.
No, that was my fifth play.
Okay, so that's really amazing. So not only you're a songwriter, you've become a playwright. What got you into that?
I'm not exactly sure. I'm really happy about it. I really like it, but I was writing short stories.
Right.
And I wrote a good many short stories, and I even had a couple published in some little small literary magazines. But then I like playwriting because I love bringing characters to life. But with playwriting, you don't have to be so I don't want to say you don't have to be so literal as far as I don't know what the word I'm trying to say. In other words, you don't have an editor saying, well, you don't want to say the word ain't. You know what I mean? You write what the character's going to say. So that's I do, and I haven't worked on one lately, but I do love writing short stories. And I am working on I take that back. I am working on one right now, but I just like playwriting. And so back in early in the band days, like in '02 or '03 or maybe even as early as 2000, I started writing a play called A Turnpike Sunset, which is about some drovers that drove animals to market, and that's what the Buncombe Turnpike was. It was a drover's road that went through Buncombe County from Greenville, Tennessee to Greenville, South Carolina. And then, back in the 1800s, people would drive their animals to market. And I just thought that would be, an interesting historical play to write. So it's a very, very simple play with a very small set. And it's just, I have a campfire and some logs for guys to sit on. And we sit around, talk about times. And it is, historical fiction. I mentioned Governor, Zebulon Vance, and we talk about secession, and we talk about the trials and tribulations of driving animals to market. And I went to Pack Memorial Library in downtown Asheville and went in and checked out a bunch of books all about Buncombe County history and the Buncombe Turnpike. So that's what got me started on that. And then I wrote my one play called Fresh Preserves, and it's kind of like it's almost like a autobiography, but it's about me growing up and being influenced by my mom and dad split up when I was 5, so my dad left, but I did have 2 really good male role models, which was my uncle and my grandfather, and they were both really good storytellers, and they loved to tell stories and about back during the Depression. So that play came about. I recorded a CD called Fresh Preserves. I'd love for you to hear it sometime. The next time I see you, I'll bring you a CD. But I recorded a song, and I don't always get everything done that I want to get done. But I always, for years and years and years, I always wanted to have a song, a CD, nothing but true stories. And it's one of the things where you kept saying, one of these days, I keep saying, oh, one of these days I'm going to do that. One of these days I'm going to do that. And then I'm just like, and so on the liner notes of that CD, it says, one of these days has come. So I wrote this play. I guess that was my second play, Fresh Preserves. And it won an award in '09. It won an award out at Mars Hill at SART, at the Southern Appalachian Repertory Theater. It won their playwright contest that year. And then we were able to put it on in, I think, December of 2010. And that was like, in my small little world, that was like a dream come true for my play to be put on, because it had, it's got all true story songs. And basically what it boils down to is my grandfather passed away years ago, but my uncle lived to be 94, and my uncle got dementia at the end of his life. And I went to his house to visit, and I said, tell me about Ernest Payne, the bootlegger, who was my grandfather's cousin who got killed in 1938 in Madison County. And my uncle just stared off across the room and said, I don't know no Ernest Payne. And it broke my heart, because he told me story about Ernest Payne all my life. And then when I said, tell me about Ernest Payne, and he said, I don't know no Ernest Payne. And then I asked him about his grandfather, my uncle's grandfather, who got in a fight with a guy down there in Madison County, and he actually poked the guy's eye out. And he just kind of looked around, and dementia was taking over, and he looked around and he said, I don't know what you're talking about, son. So again, writing things that mean something. It may not mean anything to other people, but for posterity and for my family, my grandchildren, we've got, and then incidentally, on the Fresh Preserved CD, I recorded the 10 songs that are all true stories or based on true stories. Then I recorded 10 stories to go with the songs. So for the people that I recorded, one of my teachers at Mars Hill, when I went there for a little bit, Miss Maney, she passed away. My father-in-law, Tommy Thompson, passed away. My mom and my uncle, they're all passed away now, but I have them on this CD telling stories from years ago.
But by the way, let me jump in here a little bit. Fresh Preserves, you did that at SART, is that correct?
We did it at SART,
Yeah,
yes.
so now I know it. So that's the very first time I met you and heard you. I was involved in SART at the time at Fresh Preserves. I knew the name was familiar. And Tom, let me jump from there if I can. to fast forward to now 2023, really cool thing you're doing. You're going to be doing a concert now at Asheville Community Theatre, and talk a little bit about what that's going to be about.
We are, and we're really really excited about it. I got an email from Bob White,
Sure.
from Asheville Community Theatre, and he said I have an idea for a performance, and and I didn't know if he was talking about a play or what. So I had a meeting with him and Jill Summers, who's my hero. She builds the sets there at Asheville Community Theatre, and she is a true professional artist. Like, her sets are so cool. But anyway, I went up there and met with them, and they said we have 2 open nights in August, and we were wondering if the band would like to play. And we were like, oh, but of course, we're hardly ever get a chance to play. We never get a chance to play in a big, nice, beautiful theater like that. So then after I had the meeting, my mind was just going, and I was like, well, wait a minute. And then we met back in, like, I'm going to say March or something. It was a long time ago, a few months ago. And I started thinking, and about the timeline. We didn't have the CD finished yet, but I started thinking about the timeline. I was like, we should be having our new CD about the time that come out. So it turns out that's going to be our official big breakout CD release party, and it's going to be on the 11th and 12th of August at 7:30. It's a Friday and a Saturday night.
Okay, and we should mention, but
I'm
yeah, by
sorry.
the way, if folks want to get more information about that, Tom, you have the website handy if they want to come to it.
It's AshevilleTheatre.org.
Okay.
If they go to AshevilleTheatre.org, they can go ahead and buy tickets.
Okay, we should mention theater spelled the right way, R-E. Is that correct? I think it is. Yeah, Asheville Theatre.
Yes, TheArte.
You got
No,
no,
like a movie.
No, I think it's R. I have it in front of me. It's R-E. I think it's Asheville.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I kid people. I said the correct way. It's a whole debate in the theater community. Do you spell it R-E or E-R? But have it in front of me. You'll see.
I'm sorry. Yes.
But if you want to see Tom's debuts, the release of the CD, Asheville Theatre, RE.org. And so what are the dates again, Tom? The dates of the show? What dates?
Say it again. I lost.
I'm sorry. What are the dates of the show again? What dates?
Okay, the dates of the show are August 11th and August 12th. That's a Friday and Saturday night, and it's being billed as stories and songs from Buncombe Turnpike. So what would normally we would do is, if we did like 2 sets, we would talk a little bit, or I might tell a corny joke every now and again. But with this night, everybody in the band is going to have an opportunity to tell stories. Now, our banjo player, George Buckner, is one of the best banjo players. He's my favorite banjo player of all time, and that's saying a lot. But he's very quiet. He's very shy. I always say George lets his banjo do the talking. But I called him yesterday, and he said, I've never told a story before. And I said, George, you don't have to. But think about it. He says, what's it have to be about? I said, anything, like funny things that happened to you in your life or whatever. So it's going to be a night of stories and songs. We're going to have I have a little young friend who's 8 years old, 9 years old, maybe 7. I'm not sure. His name is Lawson Wright. And he is a really, really funny little boy. And he's going to get up. He and I have a little comedy routine we're going to do. And it's funny, Lawson. And when you see him, you'll know he's a very, very sweet, polite young man. But he told me, he's 8 years old, I think. He said, I tell you what, he says, you come get me and we'll go to dinner and we'll talk about what we're going to do. But I think myself and him and his dad are going to go to breakfast one morning. And I've actually got a little script I've written out for him. So it's just going to be, I mean, for us, to come into a theater to where people are coming in and sitting down and wanting to be there to hear the music. It's going to be so fun. I'm really excited about it. And it is, it's a fundraiser for Asheville Community Theatre. And Asheville Community Theatre is, I love it up there. I did, let's see, I was in a play up there in, I want to say 96. And then I was in another play after that And then of course Asheville Community Theatre did my Christmas play. I have a Christmas play called Snowbound,
Okay, sure.
and
I've seen that.
in 2016,
Yeah.
and then they did it again in 2018. And it's like when you rehearse with all these folks that are putting their heart and soul into your show, and then when it's all over, it's just like, you're kind of down, because when it's all over, everybody goes home and the show's over. But I love Asheville Community Theater, and the new director Bob White is, I've met him now a couple times, and he is such a friendly, happy, nice person. Which for me, I feel like theater people should be that way.
Before I let you off the hook, Tom, let me ask you, just mention the other two members of the group. So it's you mentioned your banjo player, and if you could shout out to the other two guys in the group.
Okay. Our one guy is named Corey Warren, and he mainly plays mandolin, but he also switches back on guitar with David, and that's David Hyatt. David is he is my favorite tenor singer. He and I sing together, and he's my favorite tenor singer of all time. He plays guitar and mandolin back and forth, and then he plays clawhammer banjo too. And then George Buckner, of course, on the banjo, who's just a fantastic banjo player. Myself on bass and singing most of these singing the leads. And then, nobody would argue with me about this. The most talented guy in the group is Don Lewis, who was a child prodigy. He's actually started playing mandolin. I think when he was about 5 years old, and then his father actually played with Bill Monroe back in the 70s. So when Don was a little boy, he and his brother Marty, they would go on tour with him in the summers, and so Don actually has a mandolin that Bill Monroe gave him at the backstage of the Grand Ole Opry when Don was 10 years old. So Don is he's really, really fun to play music with because he's so funny and he's so crazy, and he's just, crazy in a good way. He's just a happy guy, and he's a great musician. Sometimes I feel like as far as picking wise, I'm the weakest link in the band because I don't hardly take my guitar out in front of these guys because they're all good pickers. But sometimes I think to myself, man, how am I lucky enough to play music with Don Lewis and the rest of these guys, because they're all so good. But we're gonna have a big time up there at Asheville Community Theatre. It's gonna be good.
And Tom, let me ask you a final question. If folks want to follow you or get more information about you or Buncombe Turnpike, what's the best bet to find out more?
Well, we're on Facebook, and we also have a website. It's called BuncombeTurnpike.com. And I am going to try to get modern here. My wife just set it up yesterday, Instagram and Twitter. And I honestly, I don't know a whole lot about that kind of thing, but we're usually, if someone wants to contact me or book the band or whatever, they just go to the website, and they just click on the link on the website, and it'll email me.
Okay. And is some of your music at the website also? Is some of your music at the website also?
Yes. And in fact, you can order. That's what I was getting ready to say. You can order music. We also have a brand new Buncombe Turnpike T-shirt that we like really well. It's my truck. It's a 62 model Chevrolet truck that has the Buncombe Turnpike logo on those doors. And I was trying to come up with a new T-shirt design, and finally it dawned on me. I'm like, wow, it's sitting in the driveway. So we have a brand new T-shirt coming up. But yeah, people can go to the website and just click on there, and it'll either email me, and they can order CDs there, and they can find out where we're playing. Great. Or they can request a gig. So.
And can they get the T-shirt? They can get the T-shirt there at the website. Yeah. And they can will T-shirt be available at the Asheville Community Theatre?
Yeah, we'll have. I only have 100 of them, so we better. I just ordered 100 T-shirts, so we've got plenty of T-shirts. Got them all sizes.
Great.
But Blaine, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I do want to just tell you how grateful we are of you and what you're doing. I remember, when I met you, and you said you were the CEO.
Yeah,
You know, I talked about this, and I was like, CEO, what? And you said that stood for the Chief Encouragement Officer,
right.
and I just was like, yeah, that's you. That's what
Oh,
you do, and I really really appreciate it.
well, thank you. And I should mention one other thing I appreciate. And if we get lucky, Tom, we're going to be able to hear it. But when we sign off, I'm going to try to play for everybody the one YouTube video you sent me. And if you
Okay.
just want to introduce that uh clip, Tom, and they'll play it when you're off the air.
Okay. Oh, you want me to tell you a little bit about it?
Yeah, just the name of the song and what they're going to see when they see it.
Okay. All right. The name of the song is called "These Walls Would Sing," and it came about when I was on the phone one night, late night, talking to Don Lewis, and he started naming off all these people that had been to his house playing music over the years. You know, his dad played guitar and mandolin, and he starts talking about all these people and how they used to have jam sessions at their house. And I don't want to use cliches too much. That's just too easy to use a cliche. You know, oh, if these walls could talk, and I was like, well, you know what? If these walls could talk, they've heard so much music, they wouldn't talk, they would sing. So I used a cliche, but I kind of turned it around. So the name of the song is called "These Walls Would Sing," and we all of us in the band take turns because we actually have four lead singers in the band. I do most of the singing, but we have four lead singers. So all four of us at one time or another sing parts of the song. And the video was made by my friend Ryan Phillips.
Oh, sure. Good. The best. Yeah.
You know him?
Very well. Yeah, good guy.
He's a great guy. So anyway, Blaine, thank you so much. I really appreciate what you do.
Okay. Well, likewise, man. I appreciate what you do, especially what you're going to be doing for Asheville Community Theatre. And what we're going to do, Tom, we're going to sign off, and then I'm going to put in the video at the end of it so people can actually hear what you guys do. And thanks, man. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, buddy. Take care.
Okay. And
Bye-bye.
stay with me. We're going to sign off. I'm going to play the video, but don't leave because I want to talk with you for a second. Okay. So speak to you soon. And now, Buncombe Turnpike with their video of These Walls Would Sing.
I've been blessed with music all my life. My daddy played his guitar every day. Many a night his friends would come to the house. Way up in the morning and they would play. These walls have heard the old time gospel mama liked to hear. Songs of long lost loved ones that we still hold so dear. Words of love and laughter and flowers in the spring. If these walls could talk, man, they wouldn't talk at all. They would sing. They would sing.
Daddy took his guitar out one day. I was just a boy when he put it in my hand.
I listened close to what he had to say. Before too long I was picking in the band.
These walls have heard the old time gospel mama liked to hear. Songs of long lost loved ones that we still hold so dear.
Words of love and laughter and flowers in the spring.
If these walls could talk, man, they wouldn't talk at all.
They would sing.
They would
I'm standing in the front room all alone, looking at the pictures on the wall of all the pictures who've been to this place. Jam sessions, way too many to recall. These walls have heard the old-time gospel mama like to hear. Songs of long-lost loved ones that we still hold so dear. Words of love and laughter and flowers in the spring. If these walls could talk, man, they wouldn't talk at all. They would sing. They would sing. No, they would sing. Oh, they would sing. They would sing.
I was so lonely. I felt so stressed. I needed someone to talk to.
Goodbye.
3